Welcome to the introduction of fractions. In this part, we'll be learning what are fractions. Our first main goal here is to identify the numerator and the denominator. So, identify the numerator as well as the denominator, okay, of a fraction. Now, well, first of all, we need to see what is a fraction. How does a fraction look? So let me zoom in a little bit so you can see how a fraction looks much better. So here, in a fraction can be said to describe the number of equal parts of a whole. What does that mean? Consider a circle. It's not a perfect circle, but more or less let's take it to be a circle. This is one circle. If we divide this in two, there are two parts to a circle. So this is two parts of a circle. Okay? So there are two equal parts here. Now, consider that we have it broken in four now. Then there are four equal parts. If it's a perfect circle, alright? It could have been a square likewise. In a fraction, we can say that we have two parts. So let me write that piece. I'm going to use two different color pen. Can differentiate it. We have here, say, 4. Let's put 3/4. The 3 here is the numerator, and the 4 here is the denominator. So those are the two parts of a fraction, numerator and the denominator. This symbol in between here, let me use that as red. This line in between here is what we call the fraction bar. This fraction bar is actually, in other words, is simply division, right? So in a fraction, the number above is known as the number above the fraction bar is known as the numerator, and the number below is called the denominator for a fraction. Okay? And just another point is that this word fraction, the word fraction here, comes from the Latin word fractio, which means breaking in pieces. So fraction in, let's say, Latin word fractio means breaking, breaking in pieces. That's what it means. Okay, so we have that as the introduction to defining the numerator and the denominator of a fraction. So now let's go with some examples. So we're going to have some examples here for this topic. Our first example will be with numbers. So if I tell you identify the numerator and denominator, can we do that? Yes, we should be able to do that. Identify the numerator and denominator of the fraction, of the fractions. I'm going to use the word fractions because I'm going to give you a few of them as examples. All right, so our first one will be 5/8. Okay, 5 is the numerator, 8 is the denominator. Okay, so we have that. Next one, B, 9/5. 9 is numerator, 5 is denominator. I want you to note here that the numerator does not have to be smaller than the denominator. Any one of them could be larger than the other one. For right now, we're just identifying the parts of a fraction. Don't worry about them in any other way. Just what is the top piece, what's the bottom piece, what we call the middle piece. That's it for the fractions that we are looking at. Okay? If the numerator of a fraction is less than, if the numerator of a fraction, as in this case here, is less than its denominator, the fraction is called a proper fraction. Okay? So, no, sorry about this one here. If the numerator here, trying to keep, if the numerator here, as in this one here, is less than the denominator, this is known as a proper fraction. So let's put it, this is a proper fraction. If the numerator is larger than the denominator, then we call it an improper fraction. So in other words, let's summarize it. For proper fractions, numerator is less than denominator. For a improper fraction, numerator is larger than denominator. Okay, so those are the two main things for that. So we have seen now numerators, and we have seen now denominators. So we have seen a fraction. We have been able to label a fraction. We can call it a proper fraction or an improper fraction. We know why we call it a proper fraction, and we can know why we call it an improper fraction. So let's review this piece here again. This is a proper fraction because the numerator is less than the denominator. This one here is an improper fraction because the numerator is larger than the denominator. Okay, the middle piece here is the fraction bar. All right, that's the only thing you need to know about describing or identifying the parts of a fraction, or in this case identifying the numerator and the denominator of a fraction.